so we've touched on like communication, and then that thing you said about stakeholders and knowing what the sign-off process is so key.
Yeah.
What would be a few more of like your top tips for managing client relationships? Because I think communication is paramount. Because even if it's like, you know, expectations are not being met, if you can dialogue through that, then it's still like, you know, actionable in terms of a solution. But yeah, I think top tips for managing client relationships.
Don't always assume that that person knows everything, because sometimes,
What do you mean by that?
like, sometimes you'll have a question in your head and you'll be like, oh, maybe my client already knows that they need to look out for X, Y, or Z. But actually,
like
that never gets brought up.
Right.
Or it might be vice versa. They might bring up something that you never even thought of. Don't always assume that your client or you will have everything at hand, that you will know what to expect. Because sometimes it comes up as a surprise and you're like, oh, yeah, I didn't think about covering that issue or covering this expense or this extra cost.
Yeah, I think for me, it's be realistic. As in, like, you would never, as a freelancer, never promise the moon if you're not going to give it. I think always set out, like for me, I'm really a big proponent of like setting out the brief, setting out timescales, and everything is flexible, 100%. But having a rough guideline helps you and the client know what to expect. Because if they're expecting, you know, have a conversation one day, you know, the next day they want to branding options, and you're like, that's not going to happen. So you need to again tell them, and I think that's what happens. Walking your client through the process as well really, really helps them understand. Like, okay, something like that will take 2 weeks to do, instead of, because you know, from the outside, if you're not from a graphic design background, you might think this takes 2 hours at most, babes. It's not like that, is it? Yeah. So I think that walking them through it is definitely like a top tip.
And then like, what kind of boundaries do you put in place for like a healthy relationship?
Mine is no phone numbers. Like,
Okay.
I don't want, as in, like, I don't really, like, if you've got a work phone, absolutely fine. But as a freelancer, like, not a lot of us have work phones. I don't want to charge you phones. But my thing is that I don't do mobile numbers. You can do like calls and stuff like that, fair enough. But I just don't think that that then sort of pushes the boundaries, but they feel like they might want to call you at random times.
I don't want that.
Texting.
I don't want that.
Here's my email.
And I'm really communicative over emails. Like, if you email me, I will email you back like, almost straight away. And that's how I think it should be. I don't mind doing Zooms and stuff like that, but I think setting, because they take time. So I think as a freelancer, you need to set a sort of limit on them as well.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
And it's not to say like I'm saying nobody call me. It's just, I think that gives me a boundary of being like, I'm here to do the work. I'm here over this channel. Communicate as much as you want over email. That's absolutely fine. But like, you don't have to like call me at all hours of the day.
One thing I was taught like early on, and it's scarred in my brain, like, never answer your phone after this time. Never check your emails after this time. They're like, your time is from X to Y. And then I remember I did this and I had my work phone. My boss took my work phone. He was like, what time is it? And I was like, 8. Why is your phone? He took my phone and he dashed it. He was like, you don't have your phone. That's your time. Never, because then that opens up the floodgates to being like, oh, I can get access to you at any time. I can get a hold of you on weekends, and you can't get a hold of me at weekends.
Because everything to a client is an emergency, and it's like, it's not.
Is it really emergency? Yeah. So my thing is like, okay, after this time, you can't contact me until the following day, and I've now made that my thing. I've made that my thing. There might be a few exceptions, like to their timeline. It might be I may have to do an extra. You have to be flexible. But like the basis is, this is my time. I work from X to Y. Like I've always had to make that my thing. Otherwise, I'm like, oh, I'm about to get in trouble.
And I think like, because I'm more of a sort of like night owl. Unfortunately, I'm like very stereotypical. Like I need, I get so creative in the nighttime. But I just think for me, again, to not give that impression is schedule emails. Schedule emails
the way
for work. And, like, I like working from every possible option. So I like, even if I'm somewhere else, I'll still schedule an email so it goes for 9 a.m. that day.
UK time.
So like, it looks like I'm very like a morning gal.
Best feature.
That's
the best feature.
Schedule my life.
Same.
I have so many on schedule, so I'm like,
100%. But when they see like, if they ever see like sent at 2 a.m, I'll start crying.
Don't
know who she is.
It does set the precedence for like, oh, she's available for communication at this time.
Exactly.